But I'm just applying my primer all over the face. I'm just going to concentrate on the oily T-zone area and also just around the nose, because I tend to become quite oily around that area. My foundation, foundation that does not have SPF. A lot of foundations do have SPF, you just have to read on them. This one isn't an SPF, and I'm using my Face of Australia concealer. And because I want the full coverage foundation, I'm just going to mix the two, because I want more of a kind of, I don't want to be applying too much makeup. I want a thin layer of foundation, but all in one go. So I'm just going to apply, I'm going to make a little mixture. Of course, you don't have to do this step, you can apply them separately if you like, but because I don't really have any big blemishes or anything, which if I did have, I would be applying my concealer with a kind of a synthetic brush, and what I would like to do is apply a thin layer, and I would just let that dry, apply another one, and then just use the brush to blend out the edges, or use the finger just to blend out the edges. Try not to use your finger to blend out the top of it, because it's also going to take away the full coverage effect that you're after, or you're looking for. And so because this foundation is a little bit too light for my skin, because I have been out in the sun lately, so I'm going to be using Estee Lauder's Individualist makeup, and so this is just to get that dark colour out. I'm just going to apply a little bit actually I'm going to use my concealer. I'm just going to blend this out, just to mix it all together. And I'm going to apply this over my face. So when applying your foundation, you just want to make sure you're going by downward strokes. This just ensures that if you have any kind of hairs on your face, so peach fuzz, I have quite a bit of it on my face because I am blonde. It is blonde, so it isn't noticeable, but when you're applying your foundation, if you're going all directions on your face, what's going to happen is that hair is going to become coated with the foundation, and then it will stick up and it's not going to look that great. So if you want a really nice flawless finish, especially for a special event like a prom, you definitely just want to go with downward strokes, and then this will just kind of mattify that hair, push it down, and create a layer of foundation on top, so it's not going to be noticeable, and you're going to get that flawless look that you're after. And then also, it is important when applying foundation, as I mentioned, that you do not have an SPF in it, just so that when the flash goes off in the camera, that it's not going to kind of make a white spot or just reflect light off that area. So you want a very matte foundation finish. Also remember to take your foundation down your neck, just to make sure everything is blended. So now onto concealer. What I'm going to be using is the Face of Australia concealer. And when applying concealer, you want to ensure that you're only using a very thin coat. So I like to grab the concealer brush, just dab off some with my Concealer Sigma SS194 brush. And so I'm going to conceal any spots that I have. So I have a couple just up here. So I honestly do not use a lot of concealer. I think that less is more when concealing, because if you apply too much concealer, it will just become cakey and it will be very noticeable. So I try to stay away from that. And then, so I apply it with one side of the brush, and then I turn the other side, and then I just lightly blend the edges out. I try not to apply too much into one spot, and I keep it very minimal. If you don't have brushes, what I can do is use your finger, because you want the natural oils to not kind of diminish that full coverage concealer effect. But if you do want to just blend it out on the outsides with your finger, I think that works very well, because it just loosens up the concealer. So I tend to just go around the spot. I don't actually put my finger on top of the spot, just around it. I like to apply a certain technique of concealer on my under eye area, because I do have quite big or dark bags under my eyes. So for every day, I usually just apply concealer all over the under eye area and then blend it in, because that's the fastest method. But for special events, what I like to do, and my little tip or trick, is to grab my concealer. So you have to use a concealer that is lighter than your skin, and you're just going to place this colour into the crease line of the bag area. So you're just following this line here. I'll do it again on this side. So it's just following into that shadow crease line off the under eye area. You just want to then blend this in. And then grabbing a much darker foundation. So I usually use one of the ones that I used when in my full tan summer. So So now onto contouring and highlighting the face. So I tend to stay away from shimmery bronzers and whatnot, especially for special events, because I don't want too much refraction and I only want the highlighting to give me that kind of light in photos. So I'm going to go in with two different kind of setting powders. So this one is the Cargo, and this is quite a dark color. It's much darker than my skin tone, so this is going to be my bronzing powder. And this is just so when applying my bronzer, I just like to grab the Sigma SS168 brush and I just dip it into the kind of powder, bronzer, whatever you're using, and I just cinch the brush like this with my fingers, and I just like to apply this color directly into the hollowing of my cheek. So we're just following this line here. And so this line can be quite definite. You don't have to blend it out just yet, because what I'm going to do is once I've applied all of it, I use the Sigma Large Powder F20 brush. I'm going to do this by downward strokes just to ensure that, again, those hairs aren't getting powder on them, but they're getting smoothed down for a more flawless finish. So now with highlighting, I'm going to be using Revlon Skin Lights Illuminator Powder with a small fibre Joy F55 brush. And it's a very fine illuminating powder, so you don't want a lot, you just want to dip your brush in and then tap off any excess and then just smudge it into the lid. And with highlighter, what we're going to be doing is applying this centre area here and down the nose. We also want to use some of this just underneath the eye bag area. So again, just pinching the brush just to apply this a little more direct. We also want to apply this highlighter just around the nose. Cupid's bow. For special events, I like to do a 3D type blush effect, so I'm going to be using Coastal Scent's 10 colour blush palette and the Sigma Tapered F25 brush. So I like to have more of a pinky toned on the outset, and then it kind of blends out into more of a apricot type, I guess, coral blush. So I'm going to be using this very light pinky blush, and ever so slightly I'm going to dab a bit into the brush and I'm going to tap off the excess. And I also have a very cool chart that actually kind of explains where you should place your blush for different face types. So I'm going to insert that here. Okay, so for my blush, I'm going to take that nice pink colour and I'm ever so slightly just going to apply it into the cheek area and then up into the hairline. I cannot stress enough how important it is just to not apply the blush just onto the apples of the cheek, but to blend it out into the hairline. And also we don't want to apply too much blush, we just want a very kind of subtle rosy effect, just a healthy glow. So I'm going to do this on both sides with the pink first, and I like to just even take that pink up into the hairline ever so slightly. So once we have the nice light pink, just a very slight hint of colour, I'm going to go in with the coral brush on the other side of the F25 brush and ever so slightly dip that in, tap off the excess, and I'm just going to apply this just starting from, so you have your apples of your cheek and then just above that into the hairline, and blending again with downward circular motions. Last thing before I go into eyes is lips. So the first thing which I'm going to do is to line my lips with BYS lip liner in Ice Pink 16, and I just want to line the outer line And here is the stage. So if you have very thin lips and you're wanting to make them a bit bigger, you can go slightly outside your lip line, and by slightly I mean very slightly. We don't want to go too overboard because then it will be very noticeable, but however if you just go a little bit it isn't as noticeable. So I'll just do a little bit here, so I'm just going slightly over the lip line, above the lip line. And I'm just going to fill it in with the lip pencil. This just creates a very monotone base for the lipstick to be applied to. And I'm going to be using Superstay Lip Colour in 16 Hour, what colour is it? 760, and it's just a very nice pink colour, and I also recommend for special events to use a long stay lip colour because you will be eating, you will be kind of moving around, and you don't want to have to reapply your lip colour every kind of hour or so, especially when it's going to wipe off. So that's why I usually use a long stay lip colour, and I very much love the Superstay ones. And then you just let that dry and you go over with the second long-lasting lip balm. So whenever this starts to dry out, you can take this with you, reapply, and just reapply the lip balm, which will then just kind of rehydrate the lips. So that's the face done, now onto the eyes.